Ronan O'Gara, good morning to you.
Oh yeah, how you doing?
Good. We're reading a lot of the headlines here this morning which are in relation to yourself, and that the call hasn't come from, certainly from the Irish side of things. Joe Schmidt, none of the Irish coaches have thought to mind from somebody who's been deep in New Zealand rugby, obviously.
What has been said that Ireland haven't called me?
Brent Pope was, Nathan was just reading out a piece from Brent Pope saying that he was surprised that they haven't been on to you. And there's a piece in the Examiner this morning, which I'd have to refresh myself here alongside your own article, saying that, from a comment from Joe Schmidt himself, saying that it's probably not a thing I do really in relation to giving you a shout about it. I've a fair bit of respect. Ronan had a position in the Crusaders, so he knows a lot of players, but I haven't spoken to him, just because I think it would be a little bit awkward if I'm pestering him for information when he had a loyalty to a particular team at that time.
Yeah, I think that's a good comment, to be fair. I think a very strange, I suppose, game for me tomorrow, and the fact too that Ireland's my country. It's given me everything as a rugby player, but from a professional point of view, there's 10 guys that in the last 2 years that I've worked with that will play for the All Blacks. So it's very strange, very, very strange in that regard, because you build up relationships in sport over a very short period of time. If you want to be successful, you got to get tight. You got to share a lot of things with guys, and my 2 years in the Crusaders were very successful. It wasn't down to me. It was the fact that I was there, because the environment is very successful. But absolutely brilliant memories, Adrian. Brilliant time of my life. And you don't just forget that. So, it is a bit awkward. Do I ring Joe? Does Joe ring me?
It's not too late.
No, but I speak to him on a lot of there's always communication from, I know Simon used to be well. I got friendly with Greg Feek. He's from New Zealand. His wife is from Canterbury. Met him when he regularly came back. Andy Farr is a great guy. Speak to him about rugby. Joe Schmidt speak to him frequently about rugby. But I think the last thing that I would want to be known as a Judas, in terms of the fact where, of course, you'd be shouting for Ireland, but at the same time, there'd be a bit of pride in watching how certain young backs play for the All Blacks. I've no problem stating that. That's the reality of what I stand for.
So you weren't taking a call from Steve Hansen either?
Exactly. No, he was cold to me. In my time down there, and I think I kind of made up with him year two maybe down there, but I think at the start, I think he struggled to get his head around what was I doing there, particularly with the World Cup coming up, and particularly with Ireland going so well. And but I shook hands with him, and it kind of made it clear that I have ambitions of my own to try and coach at the highest level, and I thought that the Crusaders was a great club to be at, and he appreciated that. But I think when you're a test coach, the one thing you can't beat is experience, and all these guys are hugely experienced coaches. So, I don't think Joe thinks he's a know-all. I think it's really respectful of him, the fact that there isn't a man to pour through a videotape more in the world than him. And from my point of view, I just think it's respectful that he's not looking for. But he doesn't require my opinion, because he can make his own opinion. But I suppose I had the advantage of working with them around the clock and going with tour with them and seeing what these guys stand for. But they are no different Irish players. That's the greatest thing that I've taken out, and I think it's such an advantage for me going forward now that previous Irish teams were mentally beaten. It was like we were going playing guys with 4 arms and 4 legs when we played the All Blacks, but that isn't the case, and this current crop has showed that. So tomorrow is going to be so exciting, and what an opportunity, and this is what we wanted, and it's showtime now. And I think this is what it comes down to, because there has been a bit of negativity in the last few months, but it's qualifying time, and I think it's two of four teams that can win the competition going at it tomorrow.
Yeah, just before we leave that one, because I know obviously Joe Schmidt has said about the respect thing, and you've kind of reiterated that here. For me, it's a call that can you give me any information? If there's no conversation you want to have, that's fine, let's leave it there. But what you're saying is there's been nobody from either camp been in touch to say, listen, give us a bit of a steer here, one way or the other.
No, because it's, these guys are, know exactly what they're doing. As in, I've had contact with a few players on both teams, but it hasn't been tactical.
Right, a bit of ribbon.
No, not even that. It's just how you doing. They're both very different mindsets, and both come at it very differently. But I think I'd be friendly with Keith Earls, so I always talk to Keith Earls, and I just admire his maturity and how he prepares for games now. And I think you saw it was the 3rd anniversary of Axel passing during the week, so he's kind of gone, I'm running out in Tokyo tomorrow against potentially the best team in the world. I've got to perform. I really want to perform and create history. If I don't, I go home to Adele and my kids. So yeah. I think that's nice.
Lovely comment.
Just when you talk there about Steve Hansen and a coldness and maybe a wariness of you coming into New Zealand rugby, do you think that would have been there for any outside coach, or was it the fact that you were Irish and that Ireland have beaten the All Blacks 2 of the last 3 occasions? When you look at some of the statistics, that twice in the last 5 years the All Blacks have failed to score a try, both times it's against an Andy Farrell defence, that there's something about Ireland right now that it is such small margins, he's so wary of anybody getting any little insight, that there's a fear of Ireland among the Northern Hemisphere sides that isn't there for any other country?
No, you're right. I think you're playing bad cop this morning. I like it. So, no, I think your comments are valid. I think maybe the fact that it was never really done before, Nathan too, and Steve Hansen is around a long time, and that isn't the norm down there. And I suppose I went in and I got a good reaction off the Crusader players, and a lot of them are All Blacks. And I think the great thing about them is that they share ideas and they share thoughts, and one or two of those ideas might have come from myself or from players that I played with that I was able to bring to the Crusaders. So I'd say it was a little bit strange at the start for them, in the fact that he is coming in. But I think you go back in the last 3 years, especially from Chicago, and for the game a year ago, I think anyone who was in the ground that night, be it an Irish supporter, you were kind of in awe of Ireland's performance. But if you were a New Zealander, I think you would have been rocked by the manner in which Ireland deposed New Zealand on that night. It was scary. It was only 7 points in the end. But anyone in the ground, I think I walked away going, that was such a complete 80-minute performance where Ireland just had their measure in every department. So what has happened, obviously, in the intervening period is that Ireland probably, I would say, are 20% less where they were that night, at least, probably. And I think New Zealand they have the knack of knowing when to produce. Their record in knockout rugby is staggering, and their capacity to peak for the right moment, I think, is what separates them.
You mentioned some of the excitement about looking at some of those New Zealand backs tomorrow and the role that you've had with that run. And so Richie Munga obviously is a player that you have spoken about over the last 12 months fairly glowingly, and a guy who, I think if I'm right, it's only this calendar year they've started to play this dual playmaker thing. His stars but on the rise in an unbelievable way. What sort of, when you first clapped eyes on him, what sort of a player was he? What sort of methods did he have? Was it clear that he was going to be the star that he now is?
No, I don't think so. Talent-wise, yes, but I think work rate, no. First 3 months, very awkward, bit of a standoff. I kind of wasn't prepared to we had I kind of said, Richie, your work rate is nowhere near good enough to get what you want to do. I think you can be a bit of a part of the All Blacks with your talent, but I don't think what you're doing at the minute would be anywhere near good enough, because I had worked with Dan Carter in Racing, and I had my own work rate when I was a player, and worked with Johnny Wilkinson, and I knew what's required to be a top level kicker. But Richie was a part-time kicker, and I think so at first it was kind of I'm not kind of doing any extras with this guy, because if he's kind of turning up 20 minutes here and there, I don't think that's any good for either of us. So it was awkward for a number of weeks. But then I had a kind of a complete, I suppose, clean out discussion with him, and from then it really, really flowed. But to be honest, I leave him at it, Adrian. I let him do his own thing in terms of, I'm not a kicking coach, and that was the one area of his game that he really needed work in. I can offer him advice and give him cues and repetition and mindset and visualization, but I can't hold his hand and bring it to the pitch. So he changed his routine, he changed everything, and I think he's getting a reward because he is freakishly talented, and now he has a kicking game. But as you said, it's 1 year into a cycle. That's the big opportunity for Ireland tomorrow, and the fact that, you know what I mean, I think they're fantastic players. Moanga, Goodhu, Sevu Reece, George Bridge particularly. I think their potential, who knows where they will end up in terms of New Zealand grades, but there is a big but there. They haven't even had second season syndrome or potential second season syndrome as All Blacks. So there's an opportunity for Ireland there to test their mettle.
And what is that with Monga, particularly having watched him up close? Like, what's the opportunity for Joe Schmidt tomorrow to plan against him?
I suppose you've got to get him. His team or Ireland need to push him into a space where he has very little time to think, and he gets flustered. It happens to all tens, no matter how good they are. If you take away their time and space, and the Irish pack is on top, it'll pose problems for Richie. And the one thing which he wouldn't have over a Carter or a Bowden Barrett would be having seen those pictures before, because of his relative inexperience in that position, and that happens. But on the flip side of that, instinctively he's a brilliant player. He has incredible acceleration, great takeoff, excellent feet, and I think his capacity to play in front of him is like no other 10 playing the game, potentially with the exception of Bowden Barrett.
When you look at the Ireland 15, and Joe Schmidt, it's total contrast to 4 years ago in terms of injuries. Like, you probably could have sat down with him a month out from the World Cup and said, what 15 would you like to play against the All Blacks? And all right, there might have been a debate around the centre partnership. A lot of people felt that maybe Ringrose and Henshaw was the best from a long way out. He has pretty much everybody he wants available to him. When you talk about then being 25% down from a year ago in the All Blacks, is that confidence? Is that form? What's that based on?
I'd say it's a little bit of everything. Yeah, I think confidence. I rewatched the game from the Aviva in November during the week, and it was just so interesting to see how Ireland left the pitch at half time. You know, I think the action was on the very far side of the Aviva, and you know where the tunnel is, so it's 70 metre. But like, Ireland were in sprint mode even for that. It was fascinating to watch, just their body language, their confidence. You know, I don't know, it's a humidity, but their skill level seems to be a little bit, I think, inferior to where it was maybe 12 months ago. Even in this World Cup, there's been a few passes more often have hit the ground, where you don't really see that ever. Ireland are very, very accurate normally, but I think that has waned a little bit. But it's not. I don't think it's the skill set issue. I think the thing that's very hard to calculate or to summarise is where their confidence levels are at.
It's incredible to think that the Murray-Sexton partnership is going to overtake yourself and Peter Stringer this weekend. They 56th time they're going to line up together in an Irish shirt. Justin Marshall, Owen did a piece with Justin Marshall during the week. I don't know if you saw it, but he had some interesting.
Yeah, I watched it, yeah.
He had some interesting stuff to say about Conor Murray, about that he's a kicking scrum half, essentially, but he was saying that he doesn't run enough, and he wasn't saying that he can't do it. He was saying that actually it's a facet of the game that he's very good at. Does that ring true for you? Is there enough variation in Murray's game right now?
Yeah, it got me thinking when Justin said that, you know, because he's obviously a full-time analyst at the game, and he was a brilliant 9 himself, so he has a real eye for that detail. I think most definitely where Conor would be more a passing and a kicking scrum half, because that's the style Ireland play. As you said, Ireland don't really play the ball out of the tackle. So if you why this is the case is the fact that Conor's eye line would be on the ball or the ruck in front of him, because Ireland are so efficient at ruck time that they create rucks, while the big difference between Ireland and New Zealand is New Zealand will look to offload the ball, which potentially gives players opportunity to run onto the ball. Well, if you can just picture this for a minute, you have a ball carrier and two cleaners going to a ruck. It means that Conor's eyes are towards the ground, hard to identify space. And with the way Ireland play, and I suppose the value they put into their kicking game, yes, he looks like a passing and kicking player, and that's what he's been formed over the last number of years. But it might be a nice, someone like Conor. I think the beauty of him, ever since he was a young kid, his big strength was his running game. Yeah. I think he's got huge value in probably applying Joe's principles around the ruck and the kicking game, but I think it could even be a timely reminder for himself to have a cut tomorrow. That's how it works. I don't think, because Justin Marshall said it could be the accelerator for him to bring it into his game, but you'd be surprised how it works too. It might have been something he hadn't thought of, and he kind of said, okay, yeah, I'm going to have a cut tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, it could be one of the, if you buy the rope-it-up argument, and I don't know that you do, reading some of your comments this morning about the team selection, but if you buy that argument, that could be one aspect of it, that we see a slightly different game from Murray maybe on Saturday.
It's very hard to do that if you're focused on a ruck policy, which Ireland are, Adrian. That's the big thing. But
and that won't change tomorrow, Ronan. Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't think so. I don't think we saw shoots of it in games where Ireland became, I think, really focused on playing the ball out of the tackle or offloads. But I think Ireland are around 3 per game, and New Zealand could be over 25.
Yeah,
it leads to a far higher error rate too, if you understand me. But if you control the ball, that's where New Zealand are peerless.
They can still mix that up with like the power plays, like we would have seen some of them. You mentioned the game in November, like the Stockdale try, where they have that kind of the line out and the reverse pass where they run back down the blind side.
Exactly, they're all power plays, but they're set plays. That really doesn't mean that your 9 is running, or it doesn't get an opportunity, because you're sticking to a 3 or 4 phase play that will hopefully bust them on the 4 play, which is very different to your 9 having a go. But I don't think that's tomorrow will be where you need big players to step up. There's no doubt that, Conor is one of 5 big players for Ireland, and I think he's done well against them in the past. He'll enjoy playing against Aaron Schmidt, and if he gets an advantage there, he'd think Ireland will win.
The only real test we've seen for the All Blacks so far, in fairness, was a big test, was on the opening weekend against South Africa, and the way South Africa started that game, the intensity, the pressure they put on the All Blacks. Is that the approach Ireland need to take? Obviously, South Africa didn't get the tries that probably their dominance deserved, or maybe I'm just not giving enough credit to the All Blacks defence. Like, are you expecting a sort of composed 80-minute performance from Ireland, that they try and grind it out like a year ago? Or do you actually need to go hell for leather in this first 20 minutes, try and inspire yourself and hope that they crack?
Yes, great question. Because I actually don't know, because New Zealand have changed their defence, and New Zealand have copped on that their passive defence, I don't think, would win a World Cup. So they've changed that. So usually where controlling the ball, which Ireland are really good at, would have led to penalties against New Zealand. But now New Zealand are very disciplined. Well, in the last few months they have been very disciplined, and they've have more line speed and leaving a lot of players free on the outside, which is a very atypical thing for New Zealand to do. They were always an up and out defence, always, over the last 100 and odd years. But in this World Cup, and I think it was always part of their plan, they have changed it, and now they are getting off the line hard, they're chop tackling, and they're not giving away many penalties. While you could see in the games Ireland did well against New Zealand, their capacity to control the ball and New Zealand to give up the game, and A, let the penalties, or B, let the tries. But I don't think the New Zealand defence is anywhere near as passive as it has been. So, you know, that's what makes it the game tomorrow. From a tactical point of view, so interesting is where are they going to go after each other and how are they going to go after each other? Because I think discipline is something that Ireland are really good at. I think New Zealand are getting better, but the penalty count will also have a massive impact, and also like who's going to get carded. The advantage to teams when cards come into play is huge, and people, I think, maybe underappreciate that also.
Yeah. All right. Before we let you go, who wins it?
I would say with history, I think New Zealand. But I think, you know, this is what it's come down to now from Ireland's point of view. I think for 3 years, they have been so consistent, hit a few belts along the way, but I think, you know, you just love to be a player to get that opportunity to play it. It's just one of these games that can change everything for everybody associated with Irish rugby. So it's going to be a great day.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely epic. Ronan, thanks a million as always. Catch up next week. Cheers.
Cheers, lads. Thanks for the chat.